Hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining here from a peer webinar on refining backup and data protection services. This is just some information we need to show, basically saying that any future features and functionality discussed in today's webinar should not be interpreted as commitment from Enable. Before we begin, please be aware that all attendees are on mute. Ask questions as we go along in the questions panel. Let us know if you have any audio or video issues by sending us a message in the chat. And this session is being recorded and will be sent out to you in about a week's time. Your speakers today are a General Manager of Data Protection, Chris Group. We also have Dave Benny from Focus Technology Group. He's an Enable partner who is using a variety of our solutions. Dave is a group team leader, director and shareholder of Focus. His role involves the delivery of engineering, the creation of new products and services, as well as keeping offerings relevant to the current landscape. So thanks, Dave. You can hear us okay?
Yes, I can. G'day, everyone.
Great. And Chris as well, thank you for joining.
Great to be here. These are one of my favorite types of events, having conversations, hearing the real deal about what's going on in the field.
Excellent. Thanks for joining today. I know it's a bit later in your day over in Canada. So a bit about Focus Technology Group. For more than 25 years, they've delivered innovative strategy, system support, and for a wide range of businesses. They also offer a broad range of IT services, cloud solutions, network services, and hardware. They have a team of over 70 and 6 offices across New Zealand, South Island. So for our agenda today, Chris will speak to Dave about why local-only backup storage isn't good enough anymore, the false sense of security some customers have about Microsoft 365 data loss, and how Focus Technology Group combat this issue, and the hidden costs of spending too much time on backup administration, which Focus has been able to overcome. We'll then have some Q&A with the audience to finish up. So with that said, I'll pass it over to you, Chris, and you can get started.
Right on. Well, thank you, Dave, for joining us. This is great. Really excited to have you here. Curious to maybe to kick things off, just get just a little bit more insight in terms of your personal journey, how you came, like how long you've been with the business. Then we'll jump into about a few things, and also actually a bit if there's anything interesting about the customers you serve or segments you focus on.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm a reformed engineer. I started out in the back room, worked for myself for a few years, just doing home computer work. And I caught up with the other directors of Focus and got involved with them professionally. And then one day they offered me a job, and I decided actually it was good to work for someone and alongside people than working by yourself at home. So jumped on board with them, and about 20 years later, here I am, starting, in the back room, working my way up to senior engineer, and now sitting at the big table making decisions and trying to make sure we've still got something for those 70 people to do tomorrow and going into the future. It's which in IT is a challenging thing.
Absolutely, time utilization is key to the business when you're in service delivery. So I guess jumping right into the backup topic, so you've obviously seen it all in terms of you've both received the phone call from a customer, you've had staff receive the phone call. So we have the opinion that the only good backup is an offsite backup. That's something we kind of lay down as one of our values here. Curious to hear your perspective on the value of offsite and how that plays into your business.
It's quite funny because over the years the conversation about that has changed drastically. A few years ago we had major earthquakes in Christchurch, and after that event everyone got offsite backup. Everyone understood why you needed to take your data and put it somewhere else, because they had seen the real world life example of buildings falling over, and all of a sudden, their data is now buried under tons of rubble. So they got that after that real world event, and before that it was quite the conversation. You could say, well, you could risk your building burning down and losing your data, so let's put it off site. So real world events really help that conversation. And nowadays, the real world events of, we've recently had a local health board have a major cyber event, and that prompted a lot more conversations with our client base, because then they suddenly understood why you can't just have it off site, but you now need to do something called offline. Whereas, back in the day, you'd take your backup tape home and you'd sleep soundly. So for us, real world examples very much help the discussion. But other than that, some people will still go, why do I need to do that? Why? So I guess the real world helps those discussions for us, but it's very much come a long way from just having the floppy disk for your payroll.
Yeah, well, and when you speak of cyber events, certainly ransomware is the topic that we hear about most often. And certainly when we look at like the risk landscape, that like the reasons why you back up 5-8 years ago, that wasn't really part of the general conversation. It was like in some people's conversation, but what I've observed now is that it's actually like it's people coming to us and talking about ransomware versus us going out and kind of stressing that the changing risk profile. Specifically to the ransomware risk that's elevated now, as it how do you compare that to the risks of like hardware failure or corruptions, the other reasons why you'd need to recover?
It would be the most common reason that someone would need to have a major requirement of their backup infrastructure now. I think probably 12, 24 months ago, we saw lots of crypto infections where someone would ring you up saying, I can't open these files. I just don't know why. They worked yesterday. Now everything looks different. So you had to, restore their data. Whereas nowadays it's very much, none of my system works, but I have this funny pop-up on the screen. It's bar none the biggest requirement for using backup, and probably the thing as a business owner would keep me up at night. And we've very much seen the really nasty, ugly side of those infections, right down to having to have engineers staying up till midnight because that is the time zone your attacker is working in, and that is the only time that attacker will come onto the chat room to discuss a negotiation over how much Bitcoin they want for that client's data back. And I think you don't hear a lot of those stories because it's very embarrassing, and only very large companies will get to the media, and even then they don't want to talk about this sort of stuff. And I think, if from a business point of view, we don't like to talk about these things and say, hey, one of our clients was compromised, because that's embarrassing. Our job is to protect the client. Our job is to ensure that, come 8:30 tomorrow morning, everyone logs onto their computer and they work. So it's not something we openly share, but I think from why do you need to have these products? Why do you need to now change that backup? Why do you now need to take it offline and put it somewhere else on that immutable storage? You can use these stories to say, hey, well, I'm not just trying to take your money. I actually have very, very good reasons to look after your data, to offer you these services.
Yeah, that those stories are, you only have to know one person that's experienced it, and you know how painful it can be. So I guess in terms of your, like, talking about specifically about the technologies you've used over the years, I know it's been a couple of years since you kind of discovered and really adopted Enable in the mix. So maybe give us a sense of the before and after of what you used to be doing, thoughts that you went through, why you decided to make a change, and what the outcomes have been.
Mm-hmm. I guess like everyone in my position, cloud. What did cloud mean for us? What are we going to do with everyone's talking cloud, and they still will be for a long time. But the traditional method of everyone just buying that one-off license and plugging in a USB hard drive or backing up to tape just wasn't quite the way that that made everything very easy. So, you know, we had a lot of backup exec, we had a lot of like storage craft for disk backups. Yeah, we are a very regional business, so we have a very wide spread of clients from, you know, 1 to 2 man bands to you know, 200 seat clients. So it's some of these products, they can span a very wide range, but eventually the backup the backup software will get to a point where it just won't scale. It will not scale past that. And what it turns out to be is you have an engineer in a very embarrassing conversation that, I'm sorry, that product is regularly giving problems and we can't fix it properly, but you're the expert, you need to fix it. So for us, it was very much, right, well, we have to find a product that we can genuinely stand there, look the client in the eye and say, this product is looking after your data. I trust it, and I think you should trust it as well. So we spent a long time trying to build about a cloud backup product, and spent, you know, a good 3 years, and it just didn't happen. I think we got onto this one, and I famously told my account rep at Enable at the time, look, I'm not sure how this is going to go. And I said, look, I'll just buy the minimum. And I was on the phone to him a week later without a word of a lie. And I'd probably, you know, ordered 5 times that initial purchase. It may sound like a great marketing story, but absolutely, that is exactly how it happened. So it works very well from an engineering and a business point of view for us.
Sorry, I
can't hear you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm back. So specifically, like you went from what I would call a local first sort of methodology to a cloud first, you know, data protection as a service, where, you know, the storage was included and the management layer is hosted for you, and kind of it was just deploying agents and off you went. So if you had to list like the top 3 things in terms of the impact to your business or the impact to your peace of mind, how would you compare like a local first sort of mindset versus a cloud first mindset?
I guess the local first absolutely guarantees you a busy day at the end of a long weekend. Every time a coconut, you will have failures on those local first backups after a long weekend, because the person that is there to change the drive was not there on the public holiday, therefore the backup failed the next day. So the cloud first backup strategy for us means more reliability. It just works more reliably. At any given time, I can bring up the dashboard and I can see in the high 90s a success rate, and you know, that's discounting ones that are currently running. The failures, which we work in IT, the failures keep us in a job, but you know, we've got hundreds of agents out there. In any given time, I could probably count on one hand the amount of failures we would have with it, versus the local first. Engineers just spend time doing fixing, looking for error messages, and it's just not good time to spend. They've got better things to do.
Did you see any like did you have any measurements of kind of like that before and after, of like, I used to kind of allocate this amount of time to the topic of data protection and then it reduced to this, or is it just you just like anecdotally noticed the impact of less time?
Oh, I mean, without question. I mean, it all used to be billable time for us. You know, this was never covered under any MSP plan, but I could look at our dashboard and I could see the amount of Shadow Protect failures at any given time, versus now I can look at our dashboard today and I can see 95 in the green. You know, there'll be probably another 4% that are actually in progress, and the 1% that the engineer needs to go to because it's a 5-year-old piece of tin that needs to be replaced.
Yeah, great. And then from a peace of mind perspective, obviously, spending less time, that's great, like less problems, more profitability typically. But let's talk about the peace of mind things and anything you discovered from a recovery perspective or just to handling different scenarios for customers.
I guess a classic for us was 2 years ago in our first COVID lockdown scenario. I had a client who was a large professional business. They were in the midst of a core application upgrade and they couldn't get into their office. They had remote access, that was great. However, aging equipment, and they really had to get some data out of this old platform. So they had recently deployed this product from us, and he rang me up and said, look, I need to restore 2 terabytes of data because I need to get these files out. And we're right in the middle of this project, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of project. Can you help me out? No problem. Spun them up some infrastructure space on our equipment, ran the restore, and I think, from memory serves me correctly, I dragged down that 2 terabytes worth of data in under a 24-hour period, and within 2 days we had that product, his existing system, stood up, so he could then spend the next few weeks pulling the data out as he needed it. So that just doesn't happen with on-premise, whether it be tape, whether it be hard disk, whether it be whatever. You get to a situation with COVID these days and your movements are limited, and a professional business such as theirs, they did not have emergency status, so you just could not get into the office. Online, away it goes, just so much more convenient, and it literally just works like that.
That's great. And then the last kind of like vector that I'm kind of curious just to poke on this a little bit is kind of on the growth side in terms of, obviously you're still going out and talking to clients. You've got existing clients that were used to doing things a certain way. What was your experience along that side, and has it helped your business grow, or has there been an impact along those lines?
Trust is just the key cornerstone with how this business operates. I've got a team of amazing engineers that have been with us for a very long time, and no matter what I sit there and tell them, they need to understand the technologies and they need to build that trust themselves, because they have been doing this work with these clients for a very long time, and they just won't put their name to just anything. And I mean, I guess, you could look at that as a bit of a curse, but it's very much an asset in my view. So I have to spend the time to ensure that they trust a product, and the trust journey for this one was considerably shorter than others. Changing antivirus products or changing other core systems can take a very long time in the team, but you can pretty much let them play with the software. You can very much let them play with the system, and I say, okay, well, let's test it. Let's kill something. Let's restore it. There you go. Get your hands dirty, and it did not take very long for us to build that trust, because you're skeptical anytime you're putting your data somewhere else. It's online. How long will it take to restore? Well, okay, hey guys, I did this over COVID-1, and look, 2 terabytes of data, under 24 hours. Time is not a factor. It's not an issue with this product. So having that trust in the product, then it works itself. It becomes their go-to solution. They will then present this to the client when they're having their discussions before anyone on the account team even needs to get involved. And oftentimes they'll say, okay, here's what it does, here's how it works. Okay, can we have it? Yes, you can. Tick, it's done. Oh, by the way, by the time we finish this conversation today, your system will be protected. And we've literally had those sorts of conversations. And again, I'm being a reformed engineer. I'm normally not fond of having these lovely salesy conversations like this, but I can honestly say it is that easy, which makes my life easier because I don't have to do lots of training.
Well, that's great. That is totally. I mean, couldn't be better feedback from our perspective. Well, one of the other kind of growth vectors that we've seen amongst our MSP community has been around the topic of Microsoft 365. And I'm wondering, like obviously that's part of the product, it's built in, all part of that seamless management experience. Just curious what your kind of perspectives on the importance of protecting that data and the work involved with it and how it impacts your business.
I guess again, it's this journey discussion. Back in the day, we would sell a system, sell a solution, and backup was just one of those core items. It just, you did not deliver a solution without backup. Whereas there was this false level of trust that, Microsoft will look after my data, don't they? And well, their platform is very highly available, but it's your responsibility or our responsibility to look after your data. And that strangely has been a challenging conversation. And I think it's also one of the maturities that we're yet to see a lot of painful stories or people having pain points to then again answer that question as to why you have to be backing up your data. But I think along with the server backups or the server protection, the 365 is now also under the ransomware. We're seeing a lot of increased compromises in tenancies, and today it's all very innocent, where it might be a few emails get sent and your email reputation might get nailed for a wee while, but it's only a matter of time before data is affected. And if you don't have another copy of that, or you lose access to your tenancy, then you could be in serious trouble. I'm yet to see a client that will survive losing their entire, all of their data. It's not a very common thing. So the fact that Microsoft has the platform enabled very much gives a false sense of security that your data is always going to be there. And today a lot of people can restore their data themselves by previous versions and other things like that. But it's when you have a major event, or there's that sudden feeling where, oh no, I've lost everything, that these things are just worth their weight in gold. Mute there again, sorry, Chris.
Sorry about that. I just had a little background noise. You said there was some hesitancy off the start on this topic, or a little bit of resistance in terms of just trusting Microsoft. They must be taking care of me. Have you been able to overcome that with your clients, or is it still an ongoing sort of one by one battle?
No, I think just seeing media, seeing what's happening in the world helps people understand that. And then I find in our client base, it's the real world stories. It's that trust factor that my engineering team and our sales team can build up with a client. And then it's just very much even the insurance companies are doing the job for us. These days you have to have cyber protection insurance. You just have to have it, and it will be one of the questions. Have you got backup? Have you got this? Have you got that? So from a IT systems provider, an MSP point of view, the insurance companies are helping us for a change. So I think from a compliance perspective, especially in New Zealand, we don't typically have as much of a compliance mindset as potentially some other countries. But from an insurance point of view, everyone gets and they understand why they need it. And they now realize that, you don't need it until you need it. And when you need it, it's pretty important to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And then, just last question on the topic of Microsoft 365 in terms of your actual product experience then, or like interacting with the product. There's choices out there. What led you to, conclude that using that integrated experience, it was the right choice for you and your clients?
It saves me time. It's easy, honestly.
Yeah.
So from in our journey with cloud, we built our own systems, being that we are in a sort of smaller neck of the woods, You know, we've built a lot of our own systems because we have a lot of very traditional conservative clients, which means they don't necessarily trust when their data is somewhere else. So we tried hosting our own versions of these, and you do not know the true cost until you've tried to support these platforms for a period of time. And I think, you know, you naively think, oh yeah, we can do that. But once you've been down the path, it's like, wow, actually, I don't want to be thinking about this. I don't want to be doing this. I would rather tick a box and then, you know, do a regular test and just prove to the client that, hey, this works, and here it is, and I can report on it. And here, look, if you want to see how to restore your data because that makes you feel better, here's the console. I don't have to build any of that. I don't have to build the reporting on that. I now have that level of trust in you guys to be able to hand over that sort of trust, because I've seen it work time and time again.
Yeah, that's great. Really happy to hear that. And so if we had to kind of summarize the overall kind of perspective and maybe thinking, you know, even like management capabilities like reporting you just touched on, what kind of advice would you have for others? So we've got other MSPs listening in now, and I know it's a competitive world out there, but you know, what would you share in terms of, you know, best practices, good advice, you know, cloud first versus, you know, traditional local solutions, or you know, anything about the experience with the people and the product itself that you've had?
I guess you've got to be able to trust it, and to be able to trust it, well, for me, I have to be able to see it working. I have to be able to know that if I have a problem, I can get the appropriate level of support. And again, I've experienced it from every which way. So the best thing that I could suggest is actually try it, and it will just work. You know, if you already have some sort of agents out there, a tick box, and you know you're backing up within minutes. It's very, very easy to try, I think, is the thing that I've found. And I've tried a lot of backup products. I've tried to install infrastructure with multiple servers and internet connections and storage, and I have spent countless hours building and trialing cloud backup solutions to try and find this. And when we came across this, it made it very easy, because again, we had the single pane of glass inside our platform, and I don't have to worry about adding more disks. I don't have to worry about adding more licensing. I don't have to worry about CPUs or memory or anything like that. I just deploy it, and you know the boffins behind the scenes at Enable just make that happen. And I can just stand there and do what I do and talk to clients. You know, I can generate a bit more hot air for them and say, hey, yeah, it goes. I know it goes. I've done it. I've been there.
That's great. Have you, just in that journey, in terms of that trust journey with the clients, have you done any recovery testing for them?
All the time. Yep. That is also one of the products that we do. Is we have the automated testing, which is part of the product as well today. Just literally tick it on and it spins it up a couple of times a month. Or we go the extra step and tell the client that, hey, if you really need to know your system can work when you have an earthquake event or a major natural disaster or a localized disaster, we can prove that your system will stand up. We can prove that it will take this amount of time, and we can prove that all of your users will be logging on at 8:30 the next day, by offering them a full DR test with the using the recovery tools available. And effectively that's just restoring their entire environment into either their own DR site, if they're so lucky to have one, or onto our equipment as a bring it up for a week, test it, prove it, report it, document it, present it, and then tear it down ready for the next client. So it's it's actually, again, surprisingly easy to deploy multiple servers using the tool.
Outstanding. Well, certainly that recovery testing aspect is one of those things that is often just left behind because there's no time left in the day, right? So
yeah, you get a flash email to say yes, it worked, but did it really work?
yeah, no, that's great, and certainly a requirement these days. Well, Dave, I think we've covered off a lot. I didn't mention this off the top, or we didn't mention off the top, but one thing we can do for the audience is, once we kind of shut down the discussion here, we can provide maybe a 5-10 minute demo of the product just to kind of give you just a taste of it, a flavor, and that'll give you a sense of where this is headed. If it's something of interest, certainly we would love to have a more in-depth conversation and get you just to trust it to actually try it and beat it up and see if everything Dave is saying is actually going to happen, come true for you as well. So kind of in closing, Dave, any last words then, or should we just flip over to take a look at the demo?
No, you go for gold. I think I've done plenty of talking.
We did have one question, Chris, just about the data center. Just what data centers they can use in Australia, New Zealand locations.
Yeah, so everything is kept in region, but it is in Australia. So depending if it's in country or near country, but it's we co-locate in Sydney is the actual physical place where it's located.
Right.
So if it did happen, we do have some clients that are our MSPs that are in the Australia region that also have clients that are outside of Australia, like in the US and so on. And what's nice is for those clients, you can actually keep their data in their country as well. So that data sovereignty is always respected.
Great.
Good question.
Thanks, Chris.
We did investigate actually running our own storage with the product as well, I think, Chris, but it pretty quickly just was clear to me to not go there. I guess we've got, I think it was about 20 terabytes, 30 terabytes under protection at the moment. But yeah, just too hard. So I guess, if anyone was really stressed out that they have someone who thought that I have to have that data there, that is absolutely possible. But I've never seen any bandwidth issues. It's always been a local device causing a slowdown and restore.
Yeah, and that is definitely the key. One of the, I'm just going to share my screen. I hope this comes through okay. You guys seeing what looks like a dashboard coming up? Should be coming up. Yeah, so one of the true art forms to running a cloud-first architecture is if you have used an image-based solution as an example, you'll have noticed like if you're using a StorageCraft or a Veeam, the incremental backups are pretty sizable. So often we see it's kind of in that 5 to 10% range. So if you got a 100 gig server, you're moving 5 to 6 gigs, which doesn't sound like the end of the world. If that's a terabyte server, that it starts to become a lot of data to push over the wire, and clients can be impacted. By way of comparison, we have spent from day one built this to be a cloud-first architecture, meaning we've had to perfect the art of what I call driving the transport truck through a garden hose several times per day, and we actually move on average about 60 times less data. So meaning that if you're moving 60 gigs with like a Veeam or a StorageCraft type solution, we'll be moving 1 gig. And so that's kind of the art of making this work across a very diverse set of connectivity and network speeds and so on. So yeah, if there's any concerns out there in terms of my clients are special and they have special needs, again, we challenge you to put that to the test, because that is definitely one of the part of the art to the science that we're delivering.
We actually have a few clients, Chris, that will team this up with Veeam. So they have Veeam in regards to tick off a few of their recovery time objectives.
Right.
But then this basically ticks the box of their off-site, offline, immutable backup requirement with the insurance.
Yeah, great point. And again, yeah, we've seen that before as well. And certainly another, yeah, the shift we've seen in the risk landscape has certainly changed the shift we've seen from customers who have traditionally used Veeam over to us just for a lot of that risk management side of things. All right, just real quick, I'll just highlight a couple of details. So first of all, the reporting dashboard. One of the daily things that takes time is deploying and then monitoring. And when you're monitoring, the key is not having errors. And I think Dave, mentioned that, but typically the stories are like things like I used to get 95 tickets a day and now I get 9 per day. Like that reliability aspect that you just have to spend less time on the topic is great. You also, though, get a nice set of overview in terms of your inventory that we've got here on the top left, the current status of your backup, so you can see anything that might be an issue, what's in process. And then in addition to that, we're going to give you the last 28 days. So I can hover over here to a particular device, and I can look back and I can see here on April 17, there was a failed backup, but then it was running fine for a while, and then there was another failure that happened on the 24th. So that level of visibility is really key to like the peace of mind. And really when you log in the morning, if this is what you're looking at, there's not a lot of time you can spend on monitoring your backups. It's just there for you, and you're in good shape. We do have a number of customizable views that you can look at different things if you just want to be able to see just your servers or your Microsoft 365, or if you want to adjust some of your views to move columns around to create a custom view. That's absolutely part of the equation. In terms of the amount of data that's being moved, just highlight, this is a set of backups that's running once every 24 hours. And you can see it's kind of with a selected size of, well, as big as 2.5 terabytes, but down to 70, 60 gigs. We can see the backup windows are just running in a few minutes, and the amount of data is just a few hundred megs. What's interesting is that when we move that down to running hourly backups, so I'm on my 1 hour SLA here on the left side. What's interesting, my columns are a little out of order here, but so similar size servers, kind of 100 gigs down to 60, in the 50 to 60 range mostly. We can see then that the amount of data being sent, there's one that's a little larger here in the 100 gigs, but for the most part, it's coming down to like less than 10 megabits per backup window. And again, still running in a couple minutes. So if you want to get that frequency running, every hour and so on, it's absolutely possible. And when you're sending, 5 to 10 megs, not gigs, per backup, like that's not going to impact anyone's networks, even in the worst case scenario. And if you're trying to do that with a Veeam or StorageCraft, it's just not possible. So that's really one part of the art there. Policy-driven automation is another big part of it. So being able to configure your backups to run with whatever frequency based on different plugins. You can specify down to every 15 minutes. You can filter out data that you'd never want to restore. So you can be very granular in terms of optimizing your backups. And you can also then customize your retention to match whatever your service level is. So this setup here is running at 120 days retention. So that's a nice benefit for really being able to perfect your standardize your service delivery. And then when you want to roll that out, it's just a matter of adding first of all either servers or workstations or Microsoft 365 domain. And when you're doing that, you can simply select that service level, and then you get a customized package. So you can use your N-Central or RMM. You can roll that out with an automation policy or PowerShell or a login script, whatever you like. It's very easy to deploy to people sometimes think, oh, I got 100 servers, it's going to take me 2 months to make this transition. And our challenge is, no, it's Friday afternoon. Start on Friday afternoon. We're going to spend 1 hour, and we can roll this out. And Monday morning, you're going to come back, and everything's going to turn green. So that's the level of effort that you're working on, because we've taken all that administrative and backend and configuration, all that you're just deploying. We've taken the rest off your desk. And then from a recovery perspective, we just mentioned briefly that recovery testing. So the devices that you've added to a recovery testing environment, it's just a matter of clicking through. It just takes about 2 minutes or less to set up any particular server for testing. And then after that, every 14 days on an environment that we're providing, we'll actually give you all the details of the full recovery, how long it took. We'll give you a screenshot of it running. Again, with more details, it's going to give you an event log of all the services starting, etc. And that will also come to you in a nicely formatted email that you can share with your customer or send it directly to them. So again, that peace of mind, that confidence, the proving that your value is really part of, built right into the system. And then of course, we've got the same ability to actually do it on a daily basis, to run and maintain a standby image at any location you choose. So you can do it on a reactive basis where you wait for a period of time for the data to move, or you can have it every time a backup runs, it actually updates a standby VM that's sitting in a hypervisor, like typically like Hyper-V, either at the MSP's location if your customers don't have any sort of infrastructure, or if the customer does have a little bit of extra infrastructure, you can run it so that that standby image is maintained at their location. It's really flexible depending on where you're at, and it really delivers that ability to get to a shorter and shorter RTO. There is more to the story in terms of customizable reports and so on, but I'm going to pause there because I think that kind of gives everyone the spirit of where this is at. And I don't know, Dave, just from seeing this demo, is there anything that you think I overlooked in mentioning for the audience?
That's the way it works. Again, I've sat through many a product demo and looking at those sorts of things, but and often you'll see, they show all the whizzy features, but that's in the advanced plan, or that's in the additional bit you need to buy. But there it is. It just goes, which is refreshing, because I can't stand having to sit down and say, oh yes, but you need this. Oh yes, but you need that. It simplifies the conversation, which shortens the conversation.
Great.
Good point just to say to the audience as well, in case there's any questions, Chris, just in case, just before we finish up.
Yeah. So I guess now would be the time if you do have any questions. I also just want to mention, what's the best way in terms of if someone did want to raise their hand or have another conversation, the best thing just to make a note in the question box, or?
Yeah, definitely. We'll, our partner success managers will also be in touch with everyone to see what they thought of the webinar. Yeah, if you're interested in exploring the solution more and a conversation, demonstration, whatever it may be, yeah, just put a note in the chat or the questions, and we can reach out to you after the webinar.
Great stuff. Well, Dave, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your day. Certainly, this is a lot of fun for me to kind of hear your story, and I'm glad that it's going well. Everything, in terms of, coming through COVID, it seems like things are on the rise again. So, we really appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dave. Appreciate your time. And thanks, Chris, as well, for taking the time out of your day to help this region too.
For sure. All right. Well, we'll sign off here then. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate everyone joining in the audience. And yeah, you'll get a recording soon.